Welcome everyone to episode 41 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am your host, hailing from Casper, Wyoming, Cowboy Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, a big, fat, out-of-shape, swamp-sucking dog, Kyle Hoagland.
Hey man, I'm just glad that the Big Wiggle's finally here. What's going on?
The Big Wiggle is here. November is here. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, as is World War III. Kyle, we are 3 days away, and we are, better yet, 41 episodes into Thunder. It doesn't
more importantly, I mean, we live the dream every time we get on here to record this. I mean, just to think that there is someone out there that was like, you know what? I wish somebody would chronicleize in audio form for 45 minutes to an hour every episode of Thunder, and we are living our best truth right now. And whoever was out there that said that they really needed this, well, I hope you found we found this podcast, because we're doing it for you as well as the rest of you Thunder buddies out there.
That we are 41 episodes in, reviewing each and every week. We are getting dangerously close to the end of 1998, Kyle. And like I said, 3 days away, World War III, 60 men, Battle Royal. The winner gets a number one contender against Goldberg or whoever the world champion is at Starrcade. It doesn't get much bigger than that.
Right, and to think that maybe Tough Tom or whatever, Salty Sally or whoever else is going to be in it. I mean, it's anyone's game. So it's really saying that anybody, I mean, former television champions abound, just anybody. It could be literally anybody, but it's probably Kevin Nash.
They do mention Kevin Nash a lot. Of course, we'll just get into it. We're live from the Crossroads of America because we're getting into it. They got into it. No Thunder opening, which was a little strange. But it's Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's live. They're 3 days away. And, of course, we got Tony Schiavone, Lee Marshall, and Larry Zbyszko?
You know what? I'm fine. I'm actually fine with this. He's the only person that I'm okay with, because he's got that mixture of, first of all, having a lot of knowledge about, being in the ring. He's very smart. He's kind of like if Tenay and Heenan, it's kind of like if Tenay was a charismatic wrestler. That's kind of how I see.
That's fair.
Larry.
I don't know what it is. Larry Zbyszko's voice drives me insane.
It can be. Once again, he's not the type of person that I want to hear calling a match. And if he's got something that's worth saying, that's fine. But he does have a little bit of like a screeching tire sound to his voice. Yeah,
it was a little interesting. But I will say I missed Heenan, his quips this week. They said he's heading to Detroit. He's preparing for World War III. And Lee Marshall still back in Kevin Nash, though, Kyle, the hometown hero in Detroit. He lives in Arizona now. Lee Marshall wanted to let us know that, but returning to Detroit. So I really thought it was weird how much they've over the past couple of weeks named Kevin Nash more than anybody else as a favorite to win this thing, when he ultimately, spoiler alert, ends up winning this thing.
I think the only thing that I missed about Heenan not being here was because I was looking forward to seeing the 5 or 6 or 7 wrestlers that Heenan was going to pick as his favorites.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. They do let us know that the United States title is going to be on the line at World War III. Bret Hart getting his revenge against Diamond Dallas Page. And then Larry Zbyszko says something about the biggest fool is the man who fools himself, or something to that effect. So he, to your point, it's you said he's like a Heenan and a Tenay. I think he's got a hint of Lee Marshall in there as well. So we will open up with our first replay of the night. It's from this past Nitro. It's Diamond Dallas Page. It's Bret Hart taking out Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit. This leads to DDP coming out.
Hold on. I think you just said DDP taking out Malenko and Benoit.
No, I didn't. I was going to say that because that's what I wrote in there, but I
fair enough.
Myself. Yeah. So thanks for reading my notes and not listening. But
fair enough.
Nope. So DDP does come in for the save as Hart's trying to take out the
half the four horsemen.
Yeah. And then DDP's basically going to cut a promo that says he has that contract for him and Bret Hart. So the announcement that the commentary team mentioned about DDP versus Bret Hart came right before they showed the replay where the announcement was made. So I thought it was a little backwards, and I feel like that's one thing par for the course tonight is they tell us something that happened, and then 5 to 15 minutes later they show us the replay about something they've already talked about instead of showing the replay and then discussing it. And that's probably one of my biggest gripes with this week's episode is all the replays seemed out of place, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think the only thing that I got out of it was that DDP still likes it when someone else holds his mic for him, but still has to hold the arm of the guy who's holding the mic just to make sure he's in control somewhere. If you watch it again, David Penzer is actually the one that's holding the mic this time. It's not a security guy out in the crowd like we've seen in the past with DDP. And at some point, like, DDP just grabs Penzer's arm and just kind of moves it up and down like it's a mic stand to move it closer to his face. To me, that's a classic DDP thing to do. I'm just glad to see DDP back.
Absolutely. We're going to move into our first match of the night. Norman Smiley's going to get the entrance treatment this week, so first time in a little while where he's going to come out and actually get the whole entrance theme, all that. So I was kind of excited that maybe he's got a shot to win this week until I saw his opponent's going to be Booker T, and then I knew where this one was heading. And we're going to get our first sign of the night here. It says, anyone want banger? So I'm not sure if it's a DDP related bang or bangers.
A sausage.
Yeah.
I could go for a sausage right about now.
Hey now. Well, you're in luck because you're going to get a big wiggle during this match. As Norman Smiley's going to debut that. He's also going to drop his swinging scoop slam, which is a cool-looking move. We also find out during this match that Kaz Hayashi is looking for a tag partner for a match against the Cat and Sonny Ono at World War III. So if you weren't excited about Judy Bagwell and Buff Bagwell in a tag match with Rick and Scott Steiner, you've now got the Cat and Sonny Ono in a tag match with Kaz Hayashi and a partner to be named. So World War III, this card is really heating up. As for this match, Booker T's going to win with the 110th Street Sidewalk Slam, whatever you want to call it. I thought he struggled a little bit executing the move. I also felt like in general, the kicks and stuff Booker T executed looked a little sloppy. It looked a little slow. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if it's Booker T still just coming off his injuries or what, but I rated the match 2 stars. I didn't think it was a good match. I thought it was okay, and I think Booker is just not quite up to speed since the injury.
I agree. I actually gave it lower. I gave it a star and 3/4. I think I actually put more of the blame on maybe the inexperience of Norman Smiley taking the offense, because I think there were just a lot of points where there was a point where Booker T kind of kicks him in the gut to set up for that kind of that scissor kick, axe kick, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't reel over. He just kind of stands up straight. So instead, Booker T just kicks him in the fucking face, which I thought was pretty hilarious. I just think that Norman Smiley didn't know how to sell the kicks very well. I thought Booker T looked okay. Like I said, I just think that this was as good as what we've said in the past about Norman Smiley being a good enhancement talent, a good, a good worker. I think this is like the quote unquote. I think this is using Zabisco's words. It was actually Lee Marshall. Said this is kind of a new attitude, aka heel Norman Smiley, and so maybe there was just something about it just didn't click well. I don't think I'd put all the blame or the majority of the blame, truthfully, on Booker T in this one though.
All right, fair enough. I still thought some of his kicks looked a little off, but maybe that was Norman Smiley. I don't know. After the match, we're going to get our second side of the night. We sold the trailer for tickets to WCW, which sounds about right. And then we'll get our second replay of the night, and basically it's them talking about DDP, and it's where DDP says, it doesn't matter how many times DDP goes down, but how many times Page gets back up, and he's back and jacked. So just a little bit more from the promo that DDP was cutting against Bret Hart. They just decided to split it up here and show the second part of it after the match. And then we're going to move into the Thunder opening that we didn't see at the beginning of the show, which I thought was a little strange. And we get that, and then it takes an awkward commercial break. And then we cut back to the front row of the crowd where everyone's holding their signs, and like half of them were upside down.
Yeah, I noticed that too, where I think the first 3 signs were upside down. I'm like, come on, guys. You have guardrail seats. You have one job, and that's to hold up your sign at this point, and you fucked it up.
It's your time to shine. Seriously. And, yeah, they blew that one big time. But after this, we get our third replay of the night, and it's Buff and Scott, Buff Bagwell, Scott Steiner on Nitro. They're going to bring out Buff Bagwell's Scott Steiner's mom, and they must have beat up Judy Bagwell recently, and now they said they're going to go ahead and beat up Scott Steiner's mom. They got the NWO referee in the ring to count the 3 count. This brings Rick Steiner out to check on his mom. Turns out it's not his mom, as they rip off the wig and strip off the shirt, and they see it's just a dude, which Heenan goes, she's not bad.
I also found it funny that Rick Steiner was like surprised, like, "Hey, this isn't my mom."
I thought the same thing. Like
he's like, "Wait a minute!" Like he was actually mad at the guy who dressed up as his mom.
Then he basically says, calls Buff and Scott dirtbags and scumbags, and then this leads to Scott Norton coming from behind and attacking Rick, which then leads Buff and Scott in there, and they all kind of take out Rick Steiner.
Are we all in agreement? I know we'll see Scott Norton later on. In 1998, especially in this version of Scott Norton, isn't this the most squandered, wasted talent right now in the NWO currently?
Who was that?
Scott Norton.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can discuss that a little bit more when his match comes up, but I was thinking the same thing. Speaking of Scott Norton, him, Horace, Vincent, and Stevie Ray will be accompanying Scott Hall to the ring, as Scott Hall is going to be wrestling his 300th match against Disco Inferno on Thunder.
It feels like it anyways.
Like, Jesus. We're actually going to get our third side of the night, Chris Ferricho, for First Lady. So you got a couple digs there. He's calling Chris Jericho a fairy by saying Ferricho, and then it's a play on Jericho, right? And then saying First Lady, because they're talking about all this presidential and governors and wrestlers running, and he's saying, hey, how about Chris Jericho actually is the First Lady instead of president? So a lot of digs there. Just
I'm sorry, but that sign was all well and good, but I think this is the first time I think we get the unveiling of this. I will have this it's burned in my brain. It's going to be in my dreams. That illustration of Goldberg.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't take a picture of that one this week. I got another picture later on if you haven't scrolled down to the bottom that we'll talk about. But yes, so I do know what you're talking about, and I think if I got a little bit better of a close-up, I would have probably taken a picture of it. We do get a 7-count punch in this match. We do find out that Bam Bam Bigelow came out on Nitro and apparently got into it with Goldberg. And then as for the match itself, Disco's going to hold his own for maybe a minute and a half. Scott Hall's then going to basically fall away slam, Outsider's Edge, win this. I gave it 2 stars. The whole NWO were out there. They didn't interfere, so they gave Scott Hall a clean win. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, 2 stars. I think my problem with it really is that we've seen this match. It's at least the third time we've seen these guys go together. So I just don't see the point of enhancing Scott Hall over and over with the same talent. I think this is just a bad booking.
Absolutely. We will get our 4th replay of the night, and it's last week on Nitro. Rick Steiner is going to go after Scott Steiner, while Scott Steiner had Chris Adams in the Steiner recliner as we fade to commercials. So not sure why they threw this in here, but there we go.
But was this once again? But you will say this: the formula is there, where they're showing that DDP promo, and then a match, and then another DDP promo, and now they did a Steiner recap match, and then another Steiner recap.
Right.
So it's weird, but at least it's consistent, I guess.
But yes, all right. I'll give you the consistent. I don't think I agree with how it was, but at least they're consistent with whatever they're doing. So fair enough. Right. After this, Tony Schiavone's standing at the entrance. So
that's Schiavone.
He'll be interviewing Chris Jericho. Jericho rocking his Monday Night Jericho t-shirt as a bandana on his head. He's got jeans and no shirt on, and he's rocking some sunglasses. So Jericho always kind of reintroducing his character in some way and changing things up.
Even in 1998.
Right. We find out he's got a rematch at World War III as he's going to be defending his title against Bobby Duncombe Jr. I think we all remember Bobby Duncombe Jr. and his quite a run he had here in 98 against Chris Jericho. Jericho, of course, hates Cowboys because Cowboy Chris Jericho was his first real gimmick. He says, I don't even know who Bobby Duncombe Sr. is, let alone Jr. This leads to Bobby Duncombe coming out, hitting him from behind, and hog-tying him.
And then Schiavone telling him, sorry, I wasn't a Boy Scout. I don't know how to untie you, and then walks away. This would have gotten so much more praise for me if for the rest of the night, Jericho was just there. And just laying there hogtied for the rest of the night.
That would have actually been kind of entertaining. But Unfortunately, we didn't get that, but we do get as our 5th replay of the night. And it's actually not really a replay, I guess. It's just a moment that happened earlier in the day at the Thunder Arena, where Kaz Hayashi, he's got one of those, two-way dictionaries, English to Japanese and vice versa. And he's sitting there and he catches Scott Hall coming in. And he says something, and I couldn't make out exactly what he said, but it sounded like beer. So Scott Hall basically says, I enjoy Miller Lite, but I can't, I've gotten in trouble trying to drink it before a match. It's got to be after a match. And the assumption here is Kaz Hayashi was asking him to be a partner for this tag match against Sonny Ono and the Cat, and that's kind of where he was at. But I don't know if you caught what he was saying exactly.
I thought he said, be partner, but it sounded like he said beer bottle. And I think that's what I got from it. Like, he's trying to say partner, but he was saying it, in a heavy Japanese, probably somewhat hackneyed accent. Then again, I can't speak for Kaz Hayashi. I don't know exactly how fluent he was in English. I mean, it could have been bad. It sounded a little bit like beer bottle, and so yeah, that's what Scott. I know what I liked about this too was that Scott Hall, obviously he's a heel, he's in the heel faction, but he just acted like a cool dude. Like, he just, I don't know what it is. Like, he wasn't an asshole. It was cool Scott Hall. Yeah. Like, when he was just like, oh, hey man, hey Kaz, how you doing, bro? And like, just kind of just playing with him. Like, yeah, I like beer. I like Miller Lite, but can't drink that before the match. Just, you got to drink them afterwards, buddy. And then it walks away. And it was like, I kind of welcome that's kind of always been kind of Scott Hall. Like, he's never been, that's just, he's playing as himself. He's not playing obviously Scott Hall is a wrestling character, but, it feels like that would be what he would literally say to Kaz in the back. Yep.
No, I agree with you there. We're going to get our Saturday night promo of the week. It was a little strange. They had some weird, they were showing kind of clips of the entrance for the wrestlers, but it was like some weird graphics and colors behind them. We find out that we got a new Cruiserweight champion in Juventud Guerrera. So apparently that's the thing.
There's a lot of things in this promo that were spoiled.
We see Scott Steiner's going to be there. Jericho's going to be defending his television title. Rey Mysterio's going to be wrestling Kidman, and DDP versus Stevie Ray. I got to be honest. It's a couple weeks in a row now where I feel like the Saturday night lineup, the card, is better than some of these Thunders that we've had.
Yeah, if only we had these on the WWE Network, we can actually watch. Did you also notice that Ray was rocking the LWO shirt on this as well?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. Of course, we're going to find out in 30 seconds or so that is the case, but you're right, there was another spoiler there. Before we do find out about that, we get our 6th replay of the night, and it's Jericho versus Bobby Duncum Jr. from Nitro last week, where Duncum is going to outmuscle out of the Lion Tamer. This leads to Jericho getting counted out, and he takes his title and leaves. Now, I don't know about you, but it would make a whole lot more fucking sense if they showed that clip, then followed it up with the Jericho interview that says, this is why I walked away or didn't walk away, and cuts his promo. Instead of him cutting the promo, having no idea what the fuck he's talking about, and then showing a replay to let us know what that interview is all about.
Hey, we're being consistent with being, not in order, okay? Appreciate the consistency.
After this, we get Rey Mysterio walking out in an LWO shirt, so that was a shocker. And he'll be wrestling Kidman in this match, or so we think. You wrote in your notes, and I missed this one where you put "I Heart Jesus." I need a little clarification on that one.
That's awesome. No, there was a sign. There was a guy that was like walking up and down the stairs with an "I Heart Jesus" sign. Okay. I don't see it any other time before this match or after. It was just during this point.
I must have missed that one. Okay,
yep.
Fair enough. And we find out that Eddie says that Ray is in LWO by choice, and because Kidman basically said he wasn't going to wrestle Rey Mysterio if he represents the LWO, because Kidman doesn't appreciate what the LWO stands for. And then we find out Ray is going to get the title shot if he's able to beat Kidman in this match. Of course, the entire LWO comes out, and Eddie says, "You know what, Ray? Why don't you see what Sacrifice is all about? I'll take this match instead. You sit back and watch it." So then we get Eddie Guerrero versus Kidman, and apparently the winner might be the number 1 contender. I'm not really sure here.
I would actually consider no, because Eddie Guerrero was not in the talks of at all being. I think Kidman was supposed to get, no matter what, you should get the rematch. But if Ray were to beat Kidman, because Ray was already considered the number 1 contender, that if Ray was then able to beat Kidman loses 2 matches in a row, then maybe Kidman doesn't get, he kind of like at that point forfeits a shot back to Ray.
I gotcha. Well, I'll buy that. And as for the match itself, we do get a couple sleepers, which I thought was a little strange for Guerrero versus Kidman, but we were able to get a few of those. Nice superplex in the middle of the match. We do get our 5th sign of the night during this match. It says, Sting, will you marry my mom? So trying to hook up, trying to make Sting your stepdaddy. I'm going to appreciate it. Kidman at one point is going to do what seems to be his new setup for the shooting star press, is have the opponent powerbomb you, but then reverse the powerbomb into a face smasher. So I feel like it's an interesting way to set up for your finisher, but it's been working for him. So he's going to, as he gets up for the shooting star press, out comes a new guy in an LWO shirt, Kyle, which you mentioned is Spider, which I don't recall. I recall the character, the Eddie's bodyguard in this, but I don't recall the name Spider.
I barely remembered it. I didn't even, when I first tried to find out who it was when I saw it, when I Googled LWO members and I saw Spider, and I'm like, I think that is Spider. And then when I looked it up and saw it, like, I was trying to find Spider, and he's really not I wouldn't say he's a wrestler. He's just like a muscular friend of Eddie, a real life friend of Eddie Guerrero's in the family. But a couple of pictures of him, he has the same kind of like, once again, barbed wire on the bicep, that cool tattoo from the late 90s. So it's confirmed. It's definitely Art Flores, a.k.a. Spider, a.k.a. the bodyguard.
All right, fair enough. So anyways, he interferes in this match. Kidman is going to then go after Ray and Spider. When he goes to the top, you think he's going to enter back into the ring, but he flies out against them. Then this is going to lead to Kidman basically getting pushed into Spider off the apron, gets rolled up. Eddie's going to roll him up here and use his feet on the ropes for the win. I gave the match 2.5 stars. I quite enjoyed the match, and I think it did a lot for Eddie, because I feel like Eddie has, the LWO has been kind of like a jobber stable for the most part. I think him getting a little bit of heat here, getting a win, cheating to get the win, I think it was all good for that reason. So overall, I said it was a good match, and I was okay with the ending.
Yeah, it didn't make sense for Kidman to win, especially after just losing to Juventud. So I think that what made this match good, and I also gave it 2.5 stars, same as you, was that Kidman looked good. And Kidman looked like he was dominating. He was mostly winning the match, and Eddie had to use a cheap tactic in order to pull it off. I think the booking of this match is stupid, though. Last week we had a number one contenders match with Ray and Hoovy. Ray wins, then Hoovy gets a title match the next week and wins. And then Ray he won the match he won, earned him a cruiserweight title match at World War III. And then because Hoovy won because he lost, once again, explain that, then Ray doesn't get the number one contendership anymore. And then
maybe
he feels
something
like
happened on Nitro. I don't know.
I don't know if something happened, like something in the back that we're not aware of. But this booking just sounds like bullshit, and it really invalidates the match that Ray and Juventud had last week. Which once again, kind of like, okay, what a waste. Like, that was kind of the storyline was, one of these guys is going to go to World War III against Kidman. And I don't care if Kidman loses the match, then so be it. But Ray should still be going to World War III.
Well, don't worry. He's got a shot to win the 60-man battle royal.
Oh, yeah. Well, good luck, Ray.
And you know what? Sometimes those smaller guys, they get the endurance and the size. It's a little bit, they're not as likely to get thrown over the top because they're not so big. They're not big targets, right?
Yeah, I'll go with that. In 1998. Good luck, Ray.
After this, we're going to cut back to the commentary team. Lee Marshall, of course, gone. Tenay is in here now, and they're discussing the Cruiserweight title. And they said, Kidman's going to have a chance at World War III. So apparently it is confirmed that Eddie Guerrero-Kidman match was not for the number one contender, as Kidman is going to get his rematch for the title at World War III. And this is where we're going to get our 7th replay of the night, Juventud Guerrero versus Kidman on Nitro. This is where Juvy's going to prevent the Shooting Star Press and hit the 450 for the win to get that Cruiserweight title. So, it's, again, would have been fucking awesome to see before this match. Find out, hey, Kidman lost the title. Kidman is not champ. Juventud is. That's why Kidman is wrestling in this match without the title. But no, let's wait and show it after the match.
You sound angry. Hey, consistency.
Right? Fuck me. God. Anyways, we get our sixth sign of the night. It's 5 fans each holding up one of the letters. Those kind of signs, and it says SHEEP, sheep. So maybe we're all just sheep for following along blindly. Right?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Also, who is that supposed to be for? Is that a Raven sign?
No
is that
idea. Literally, there was nothing else but other than sheep, and I just thought it was interesting to put there.
Well, once again, we're in the heartland. We're in the heartland. Maybe they just like sheep. Maybe they're sheep farmers. This is Fort Wayne. I don't know too much about Fort Wayne other than they host Thunder from time to time.
And it's the crossroads of America every time they do host it. So.
Yep.
After this, we were at Kevin Nash, Scott Hall promo. It started out the exact same as the one for Halloween Havoc, but then they started adding scenes from Halloween Havoc. And then kind of shows them more recently fighting each other on Nitro, including when the Giant and Hall threw Nash through a wall. Overall, I thought it was a solid promo to kind of push that Hall-Nash match for World War III.
I mean, I'm okay with the promo. After seeing the Halloween Havoc match, I just don't see what this is going to be exciting about. I didn't like this as a return match, to be totally honest, because
we're still getting Scott Steiner and Rick Steiner 10 fucking months later. So Hall and Nash going 2 months back-to-back matches doesn't seem all that bad in retrospect, but I know what you're saying. I think they should have just ended it at Havoc, but here we are. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. I'll save that for then. After this, we get Scott Putski coming out to the ring, so you're wondering who he's jobbing this week. It's against the IWGP champion, Scott Norton, accompanied to the ring by Vincent, Horace, Stevie Ray, and Scott Hall. Vincent's going to start the match up by attacking Scott Putski, which Mickey J is completely okay with. The rest of the NWO are going to get, most of them are going to get some sort of interference during the match. Scott Norton is going to win with the powerbomb.
I forgive you. There are less Scotts involved in this match.
Yeah, there really are. God, I just realized that. Yeah, shit. There's 6 people and 3 of them are named Scott.
I kept on wanting to say Scott in my notes, but I'm like, wait, I can't do that because there's 2 Scotts wrestling.
Right. As for the match, I rated it a star and 3/4. It was a squash match, but I didn't even think it was a good one. And the fact that half of the NWO had to interfere, really, I think, what's the word I want to say?
Delegitimizes.
That's the word I wanted. Delegitimizes Scott Norton's strength here, and he's the fucking IWGP champion, Kyle. And we kind of alluded to it earlier, so let's talk about this. How much are they wasting Scott Norton?
Insanely. I gave it a star and 3/4. Real quick, just talking about the match. It was shockingly longer than I thought. I think I actually would have liked it more if this was your classic Scott Norton power bomb and leave, because that's what Scott Norton does. And like I said, it's in my notes, so I was disappointed you didn't just look down and see the word delegitimize, but it does. Clearly
God,
Scott Norton.
It is right there. That's amazing.
Clearly Scott Norton didn't need to look the way he looked against Scott Putski, even though he basically had all, he was fine. He was never in danger. But the fact that, and I don't know if maybe this has to do with World War III. Maybe they're doing this as kind of like a pack mentality going into World War III, where maybe at World War III, these 4 or 5 individuals are going to be working together to take people out. So they're kind of showing that in these matches. That's the only explanation I can think of, even though they did give Scott Hall a clean win with Disco. So that's not consistent in that formula. But that's the only thing I can think of. Now, going back to Scott Norton. Congratulations, dude, on winning the IWGP Championship. I'm sure that's probably one of the biggest
one
things.
Of 3 Americans to do that.
Exactly, and one of them was Hulk Hogan. But anyways, yes, this is a shame what they're doing with Scott Norton, because I don't care. If you put a good worker with Scott Norton, he'll look like $1 million. We've seen him in matches where he looks good. And the fact that I don't think he ever wins any title in WCW is a travesty. It is a fucking travesty. He has the look. He might not talk much.
He's not the best talker. So okay, he's not going to be world champ.
Give him a mouthpiece. He's like Brock Lesnar.
Give him Sonny Ono, right?
Oh God, sure.
Yeah, no. And to your point, never wins a single title in WCW. He's a 2-time IWGP World or Heavyweight Champion, 2-time Tag Team Champion. He's a G1 tag league. He won the super grade tag league, and he's the greatest Gaijin MVP. He's
Dude can bench press 640 pounds. He's a world arm wrestling champion. Like, the dude's got all the credibility of, like, this is like Brock Lesnar before Brock Lesnar was Brock Lesnar, as far as being a badass with credentials and a really good amateur background and a good Japanese professional background. And I don't care if the dude can't talk, if the guy can't hold a promo. That's why you have a good manager by his side to take care of that shit for him. He is an ass kicker. He doesn't need to talk.
Absolutely. But instead he's beating up Scott Putski on Thunder, so poor guy.
He's on the level of Horace and Stevie Ray, and that's what's sad about it.
It really is. After this, we get our 8th replay of the night, and this is Hogan on Nitro. He's introducing his new intern for his presidential run, Monica Lewinsky, or Monica Lewinsky lookalike, anyways. And they're gonna pull the old cigar joke again, and she's gonna pull it out of her cleavage. And then
which by the way, Hogan doesn't like cigars. He doesn't smoke. We learned about that last week, and yet in this promo, she gives him a cigar, and he's like fucking over the moon excited about it. I don't know if it's because he just wanted to smell some tit on a cigar, but which might have been all he was excited about. But I just thought that was funny that Mean Gene asks him, like, what are your thoughts on cigars? And he goes, I don't smoke. And then the very next week, he gets a cigar, and he's like, all right, cool. Consistency, guys. Consistency.
Then we got Scott Hall here. Him and Eric Bischoff are chatting about loyalty. Bischoff's going to basically say some shit to Hall, which leads to Hall attacking Bischoff. Hogan's then going to attack Scott Hall, and this brings Kevin Nash in to clear out Hogan and Bischoff. So maybe Nash and Hall are buddies again, or he's coming to his aid. So you see a little bit there.
So this is one of those promo or one of these like replays that this is where I don't like the order in which they did stuff, because nothing makes sense of why Scott Hall would have attacked Eric Bischoff. There's not one iota of substance or backstory or anything that leads us to believe, wait, why is Scott Hall wanting to air out dirty laundry with Eric Bischoff? Like, where is this? And I know they explain it later, but it's like, this is a horrible time to show this, because we're all sitting like, wait, what? Like, since when did Scott Hall, who was feuding with Kevin Nash, who was part of the feuding NWO faction, is all of a sudden at odds with, Bischoff and then in turn Hogan? Like, this made no damn sense in this order. And I know we're going to get a little bit of explanation, but even that explanation isn't good enough. By the end of this whole night, it still doesn't make sense why Scott Hall is at ends with Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, they don't show us enough anyways. Maybe there's more to it, but yes, you're right. It just, from this clip, we don't get enough context to why they're at odds with each other. But what we do get some context on is Kaz Hayashi's going to maybe get a partner in this next segment. Is he's learning more of the English language here, and he sees Disco Inferno and says, partner? And Disco says he only dances with girls, which I feel is like not the case, because he was dancing with Alex Wright not that long ago. But Perry Saturn's going to come in and say, hey, you idiot. He wants a tag team partner. And Disco says, why don't you be his partner? And Saturn says, maybe he will. And what you got out of that promo, Kyle, was Saturn was wearing one of those hats that everybody seems to wear.
Yeah, I don't care what the hell that was going on. That Disco was wearing like a dark leather, looked like a trench coat. Like he looked like he was a well-to-do crazy flasher. But that hat, so I don't know how else to explain this hat other than it's the hat. This is the hat that wrestlers have been wearing in like the late 90s, early 2000s. I think Triple H wore it when he was a heel. I think it's the heel
like
hat.
Like a beret?
Yeah, but it's not a beret. I don't know what it's called though. But it's like I'll have to look it up. But I think we've mentioned before, I think Buff wears that hat. I'm convinced it's the same hat. It's a prop, and that everyone just passes it around, because I think we have discussed this hat with other wrestlers in the past, and I just wanted to call it out now that it's just too much. There's too much evidence about this damn hat, and I'm like, what is it about 98 and this style of hat that professional wrestlers seem to fucking love? I have no idea. It's bothering me more than it should. I think Horace wore the hat. I don't know what it is, but that hat bugs me, and I know we probably haven't seen the last of this particular hat.
Fair enough. After that, though, we get the Cat. Not the Cat in the Hat, but just the Cat with Sonny Ono. And this is where he cuts his normal Cat promo here. And Sonny Ono lets us know that he did sign up for a tag match against Kaz Hayashi and a partner to be named at World War III. And then lets the Cat know he signed him up tonight against the two-time karate champion, Super Sensei. So out comes some guy who's apparently a karate champion. But Kaz Hayashi's going to come out from behind, and he's still going to get beat up by the Cat. This is going to lead to the Cat and Sonny Ono attacking Kaz Hayashi, which brings out Saturn to clear the ring, and it is official. Saturn and Kaz Hayashi are going to be going up against Sonny and the Cat at World War III. So, man, this card is heating up, isn't it?
I'm just sad that we didn't get to see anything from Super Sensei. I mean, if he's a two-time world karate champion, you think he would at least maybe put up 2/3 of the fight that the Cat could, and maybe this could have been like match of the night, but we'll never know. It was never meant to be.
That's true. After this, we get Chavo Guerrero Jr. wrestling Alex Wright. I didn't write a lot of notes about this match. I did enjoy it, but I loved that both of us called out. I think it was Alex Wright that jumped off the top rope and took when he goes to the top and Chavo's laying on the ground, and then when they jump off the top and they just like do like almost like a pencil shape, and they just jump down in a straight line and take some feet to the chin. You can always tell when the top rope move is getting reversed is when they jump in a way that they would never jump when they're executing a move, but they just jump down here and take the reversal.
It's one of those things where if someone's prone on the ground and someone goes to the top rope and it looks like they're going to do an axe handle, you know you're doomed to get anything done at this point. It's we see it all the time. It's not a botch. This is classic 90s, wrestling here. And we're going to see it after this. And I'm sure one day you and I are going to watch WrestleMania fucking 45 and someone's going to do it. It's just one of those things where it's like, we're not that stupid, guys. Like, there's got to be some other thing you could do off the top rope that someone can fight back from that's not so fucking lazy. Right.
As for the match itself, Chavo's going to actually stop the Rude Awakening neckbreaker that Alex Wright does late in the match, and then Alex Wright's going to do kind of a flip over, holds the legs into a bridge 3-count leg 3-count pin here. It was a surprising ending. I didn't write a lot about the match because I was just kind of sitting there enjoying it, and I thought it was again one of those different finishes. Wright's not going to win with his finisher. Overall, I was surprised that they had a good match, and I was pleasantly entertained with the match.
So you gave it what?
2.5 stars.
Okay, so yeah. Okay,
I don't know if I said that or not. Sorry.
I don't think you did, but I mean, you were too busy sucking this match's dick. But once again, I don't blame you. I actually do consider this match of the night. 2.5 stars for me as well. Very good match. I thought some spots were a little sloppy, but I think they made up for it. I think it wasn't blatant and something they couldn't kind of recover from. Good ending as well. I mean, we always talk about how the surprise roll up wins and things like that are few and far between, and sometimes they're appreciated. And I kind of like the fact that if Alex Wright was going to go over, he wasn't going to do it with his finisher, that he was going to do it by kind of outsmarting Chavo and having like a roll up, kind of outsmarting, kind of outsmarting Chavo at the end with a surprise pin. So I did like the way it ended because I don't think it made either of them look bad. Obviously, at the end of the match, Chavo chases him off with Pepe, so I don't think either one of them looked weak at the end of it, but I think it was right to give Alex Wright the victory.
I agree. After this match, we're going to get Canyon versus Prince Iaukea. This is also we're going to see our 7th side of the night. It's Raven's Flock, and it's a drawing of Raven, and I can't do it justice. It's just one of those things we got to tweet out there because it's fantastic. It looks nothing like Raven at all.
There's nothing about this. It looks like if you put like, I don't even know how to explain it. It looks like a potato with a jacket on himself with the googly eyes. That's the best I can explain it, but yeah, it'll definitely be on Twitter.
Canyon's going to call everybody insignificant Indiana inbreds, which I got to say is an impressive alliteration with the letter I. You don't see that very often. And also a different 3 eyes than Kurt Angle would have.
And, if only, and once again, there's a difference in the as good as you liked it. If that was the three eyes of Kurt Angle, I mean, I don't know if Kurt Angle gets in the Hall of Fame.
That is true. He is going to say everything. Of course, he's going to ask who's better than Canyon. Everyone's going to say everybody. And this is when he's going to come back with a Yo Mama cut down, which was fantastic.
I had to walk away. He was so flabbergasted, like he didn't know what to say. He's like, "No, it's you, Yo Mama."
It was great. That said, Canyon is actually going to attack Prince Iaukea at the entrance ramp, kind of before the match gets started. And Tony Schiavone wastes absolutely no time to let us know that he is the former television champion here. Canyon is ultimately going to win this match. I think he was going to reverse Prince Iaukeia's Northern Light suplex into a flatliner 3 count. I gave it 2.5 stars though. I enjoyed the match for what it was, and I thought it was good back and forth, good offense, and ultimately a clean finish.
I agree. 2.5 stars. I loved the offense Canyon did. And I know that we have said before that Canyon clearly has got one of the more dynamic and original move sets. But sometimes we feel like he kind of treats the ring like his own chemistry set, where sometimes the moves work, sometimes they don't. And also I think sometimes just the wrestlers themselves just don't know how to take the move that Canyon's trying to do as well. I think this is the first time where I think we saw kind of a finished product of figuring out his unique offense and putting it all together. And he also put on a guy that honestly, and we could talk all the shit we want about Prince fucking Iaukea, but he is a decent enhancement talent, and he does sell pretty well. So as far as putting somebody over, I mean, there's definitely worse choices than Prince Iaukea. And
it doesn't hurt that he's a former television champion.
No, that's only going to cause the meteoric rise of Canyon.
After the match, we're going to get Saturn matches. He's going to be wrestling Wrath. So we get our Wrath match of the night. Is Saturn versus Wrath?
I didn't know what to do with myself when I saw this. I'm like, this is the Wrath match of the night, but yet is he going to job?
Saturn literally has a tag match with Kaz Hayashi against the Cat and Sonny Ono at World War III. And we're getting Saturn versus Wrath for free on Thunder.
Yeah, I mean,
something's backwards about this.
This could be, honest to God, I would have been fine watching this match in World War III. And I'm not even saying that Wrath deserves it, but Wrath is undefeated. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know where Saturn's been. We really haven't seen much of him. But from what we've seen, the dude doesn't lose either.
Exactly. We do find out in this match, if you have no oxygen, you are worthless. So that's from Mr. Zbyszko himself. Of course, referring to needing to have endurance to win the 60-man Battle Royal on Sunday. That said, Wrath is going to control this match early on. They're going to fight on the outside. They kind of keep the match slowed down a little bit. But then we're going to see the Cat eventually come out during this match. Saturn's going to cryonic kick Wrath. He's going to head to the top rope, hit a frog splash. But then Sonny Ono is going to jump up. He's going to distract the ref as the Cat's going to kick Saturn in the back of the head. This leads to a meltdown for the 3 count. I gave this match 2 3/4 stars, and I'm not ashamed to rate it that because I think they let the match actually end cleanly. And I get it's not a clean finish. There was interference. But they could have easily ended this match in disqualification, thrown it out like they love to do, and we criticize them all the time for it. Like, why do we always got to have a DQ finish? Instead, they let the interference happen. It pushes the Cat and Saturn storyline. Wrath continues to remain undefeated. And the match itself, both of them looked good in this match. I don't think either of them came out looking weaker or worse for wear in this match. I thought it was well booked, and overall, one of the better matches and better booked matches we've had on Thunder in a while.
I'll give you that, although I actually think, even with the Wrath win, I think Wrath looks weaker in this match. I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was a solid match. It was good to see a Wrath match that wasn't a squash. The ending didn't make sense with Cat getting the revenge he obviously wanted after Saturn showed up a little bit earlier. And, it does push the whole idea that Wrath is also undefeated. Also, spoiler, Wrath does have a match in World War III. He fights Glacier, I think, in the first match of the night. But I think, but one thing I will say I disagree with you is Wrath has been doing nothing but just rampaging over people. There hasn't been a slowly but steadily. And once again, I didn't watch the Ming match, so maybe that's what I probably need to see. But everything that we've seen here on Thunder has been him just absolutely just wrecking through people. And Saturn is a good wrestler, but he's definitely probably a good 6 inches shorter than Wrath. He clearly does not have the strength of Wrath, and Wrath, for the most part, for a guy his size, can kind of go toe to toe in agility and speed. He's got kind of everything, and the fact that this is the first time that I've seen Wrath look really vulnerable in a match, which I'm not against per se, but not only did Saturn kind of, I guess, I wouldn't say exposed Wrath, because I don't want to be the word exposed being like Wrath's not a good wrestler and Saturn is exposing that now to everybody. I'm just saying he was exposed as in this is the first time where it really felt like Wrath was in trouble in a match, and then ultimately wins because of outside interference. Whereas in my heart of hearts, if you were to tell me right now Saturn's fighting Wrath on the November 19th edition of Thunder 1998, I still probably would have given the edge to Wrath, even though Saturn, is kind of over. But once again, we've talked about how Saturn's kind of been in this purgatory of talent that when you're kind of stuck in it, it's kind of like, well, we kind of gave it a go. It's kind of win its course. But Wrath is kind of like the new hotness. He's the undefeated wrestler. He's the guy that's got more momentum than Saturn, even with Saturn having I guess, I wouldn't say a marquee match. I mean, it was basically just made up today as far as what he's doing at World War III. But if you were to tell me,
I wouldn't even call it marquee match. I wouldn't call it ever. I think it's a waste of a match on the card myself. But
no, and sure, because Justiniano is not even he's a talent, but he's not a wrestler. But if you were to say, gun to my head, you say Saturn versus Wrath right now, who wins? I'd say Wrath cleanly. And the fact that he needed
depends on if you ask me on Thunder, I would agree with you. If this was a pay-per-view match and it was one they've been building up for a few weeks, I don't know if I necessarily lean one way or another. I think I
still would, because on TV, Wrath's on TV. I don't know what we've been seeing on Nitro, but we haven't seen it on Thunder, much of Saturn. So for me, I go
Saturn's
Wrath.
Had all these storylines where he's been taking out, he took out Raven and the Flock. He, pretty much squashes the Flock most of the time when they were around. He was taking care of Canyon. Like, I feel like Saturn has been one of the stronger booked mid-card guys that we've watched.
Right, but he's not the undefeated buzzsaw that is Wrath.
No,
I think
but Wrath is an undefeated buzzsaw that's been going. I mean, there's a reason we call it Wrath Match of the Night. He has been the Goldberg, after Goldberg's been off Thunder, beating the shit out of no-name guys for the most. I mean, they've got names, but they're not. He's not beating anybody that I would be anyone worthwhile.
I just think that, ultimately my opinion about Saturn and Wrath right now is, if this match was booked in July, I'd say Saturn. If this match was booked in November, I'd say Wrath. I think that at this point, I think Saturn was hotter and more over 4 months ago.
You think Wrath is more over now?
I think currently, right now, I think Wrath is a bigger draw than Saturn.
Interesting. I think I disagree with that only because Wrath doesn't have a personality at this point. He is a go in there, kick ass, squash them for the most part, walk away.
Well, I'm also looking at it. I'm also looking at it from like the back. If you're asking me if I'm an executive, if I'm making the choices of booking,
no,
and I'm showcasing what you're showing me on TV, not so much what the crowd's looking at.
That's
I'm
what
saying
I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh no. I will. I'll say that
if
the
I'm
accolades.
a fan in the crowd and I've got to pick a shirt out of Saturn or Wrath right now, I'm buying a Saturn shirt.
I'll go with that because mind over matter is the best Bret Hart phrase that's ever been invented. But I'm just saying, like, for what I feel like WCW creative is trying to inject in your head, it feels like they're trying to sell you, a bag of goods that contains more Wrath parts than Saturn parts, as of right now in November.
Well, he's got the look, and he squashes dudes, and he's decent in the ring. If the dude could talk, maybe we get somewhere. But that said, we'll just have to wait and see what happens going forward. We will get our 9th replay of the night at this point, and it's Bam Bam Bigelow showing up at Nitro. He's going to clear out a ring, then he's going to call out Goldberg. This leads to about 1,000 security guards as they try to hold the two of them off. Then they have Eric Bischoff is going to talk to Mean Gene and says Goldberg has bigger things than to deal with any Joe Blow coming off the streets. Bigelow is then going to attack Goldberg when he's going to enter his pyros because they were supposed to have a match that night. They brawl around, and that's kind of it. So we found out earlier in the night Bam Bam showed up, but we finally get the replay at this point. I feel like they should, if they're going to discuss Bam Bam, show the replay before you discuss him, and then you can talk about him all night. But it is cool to see that I like the Bam Bam as an opponent for Goldberg. I do like that here. I would have loved to see a little Bam Bam action on Thunder, if we're being honest.
Right, and I think this also gives a legitimate guy for Goldberg to go over on, because I don't think they're not gonna put the belt on Goldberg, but I feel like Goldberg's I feel like the world title, I feel like this titles in general don't have a weight on them right now in this company.
The only weight that titles have is if you're a former television champion.
Right. That's, as much as we're joking, that's kind of the sad, honest to God truth. But really, like, really Goldberg being the world champ, it's not so much that he's the world champ. It just doesn't feel like there is a legitimacy to the world title in the eyes of who's going to be the next guy up to try and take him down. And because of that, it makes the world title just feel like, well, it's just Goldberg's until whenever, like it doesn't feel like there's somebody up there that's, having a feud with Goldberg. That's why I think we talked about this. I think that's why it's such a squandered, just unfortunate thing that they never did a Jericho Goldberg. I'm not saying that would have made Jericho look like he could have had a match. I just think it would have been good to end it in a way, because there was, Jericho was kind of talking some shit. But right now, I mean, look at all the belt holders right now and tell me any storyline that involves a belt.
Well,
Bobby Duncan Jr.?
I would say DDP and Hart. That one is telling some sort of story.
But that doesn't feel like me.
You're not watching enough Nitro for that. It does feel like anything on Thunder, but it will after this main event, as Bret Hart is going to be wrestling Conan here. We will see our 8th sign of the night. It says, "I'm having Sting withdraw." So I wonder if that's from the mother of the guy who was trying to hook up his mom with Sting. We find out that during his college years, Tony Schiavone partied on Thursday nights. Conan, though, he's going to, of course, get in the ring, say his things. We also going to get a 10-count punch during this match. And then Stevie Ray's going to come out. He's going to whack Conan in the back of the head with slapjack, which apparently no one seemed to see happen. Conan's going to be knocked out. Bret Hart's going to lock on the sharpshooter. And he's going to win. Star and 3/4 for me. It was what you call a classic Thunder main event. It wasn't very good, and then the interference was pretty much unnecessary. There wasn't a DQ finish, I guess, but I still didn't like it.
Yeah, same thing. Star and 3/4 would have been 2 if the ending wasn't so haphazard. Clearly, Stevie Ray did his best Lex Luger impression and was just a little bit late to where he needed to be. Because I think it was Conan was trying to do a sunset flip, and you could tell Mickey J was doing a slow count because he knew Stevie Ray was not in position to lean in and lean in through half of the distance of the whole ring to hit Conan with a slapjack. I think that was also the other problem. Like, Conan was in the middle of the damn ring instead of being kind of closer to the ropes with the sunset flip. And so Stevie Ray had to reach out like he was diving into the end zone for a touchdown. Hits him with the slapjack. So it looked weird. I wouldn't even say that maybe I'd give it 2 stars if it was done right. But maybe I would have if the ending was a little bit more better choreographed.
Yeah, again, I think I agree with you. Even if it was choreographed better, I don't think I would have given it 2 stars. Just wasn't a fan of it. But after the match, Bret Hart's going to grab a chair, which a fan tried to stop. I don't know if you noticed that they tried to grab the chair from Hart before he was able to grab it, which I thought was kind of funny. He's going to put Conan's leg in the chair. He's going to go for the middle rope like he's going to attack him. Then he's going to switch to another middle rope. This brings out Diamond Dallas Page. The 2 of them are going to start battling each other, and that's when we head to the end of the show. Credits roll. That's your Thunder. We're going home to World War III, Kyle. What did you think?
Overall, I thought this was a better than average Thunder. I'm not sure whether or not I want to give this higher praise because this is a go-home show. Although, once again, I look at it from the aspect of we're going home from Thunder with the United States title being the we're out of time. Holy shit, this is the last thing we get to remember. which I guess makes sense because Goldberg doesn't defend the title at World War III. If I recall, I don't think he does.
That's correct. Yeah, he doesn't. The main event is actually Bret Hart versus DDP. Not even the 60-man battle royal.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I think it's dumb, but still.
I'm okay. As a part of me, it's okay with it just because of something that's that. Well, I guess if something's that long, you don't want to have a match to follow that up because there's no way that the crowd can come back from that. So yeah, I go with that. But as far as this Thunder, if you're comparing it from the last couple of weeks that we've had, and especially if we're going back since the Halloween Havoc go home show,
go ahead and compare it to the last 40 Thunders if you really want. But yeah, at least the last go home show.
But the matches were decent, borderline good. There was lots of recap. And that's, I'm glad they did because we desperately needed it. Once again, we can argue about the order in which it was done, and how kind of weird it was. Done. Yeah, because the production of that wasn't great, but I'm so glad they did it because there was a lot that we had to chew on that we would have been completely lost in the dark. We had, Scott Hall laying out Bischoff. I still don't know really why. Bam Bam's debut. Juventud winning the Cruiserweight title. DDP returning. And I'm glad that they gave us something to look at and to kind of experience versus just, oh, hey, here's Kidman coming out. Oh, if you notice, he doesn't have the belt because Juvi won it on Monday. And we have nothing else to talk about or nothing to show for it. So I was glad. I'm glad we're not kept in the dark with a lot of those things. And I really do hope that this is the layout for Thunder minus the consistent shitty order of showing it. But I do like the layout that they gave as far as, there's reasons why you're going to see what you're going to see. You're going to have questions. So, and maybe that's why they did it. Maybe they wanted you to see it and be like, Kidman's not the champion. And they're like, oh, by the way, if you're curious why he's not champion, here's what happened. I do disagree, though. You should go with what happened. Go in chronological order. Go with what happened and then go into their match. Because Kidman's going out there with this mentality and psychology that he's no longer the Cruiserweight champion. So you should at least go in that order. So that I do agree with. There were some decent story-driven matches, or at the very least, if the matches weren't like between the two having a storyline, somebody was getting involved where they should be involved. There was plenty of substance for us to ponder from the flagship show. Once again, thank you for the recaps. Honestly, I think the low point, even though I still kind of thought it was funny, was the Jericho getting hogtied interview. I know we can say what we want, and maybe there was some hilarity to it, but no one gives a shit about Bobby Duncombe Jr., and neither does Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I've been very critical of Thunders as of late. I was especially critical about the go-home show at Halloween Havoc. I still agree with myself that it was the downfall of WCW. But that said, for a card that is completely trashed, this World War III card is not good. It is outside of the 60-man Battle Royal, which is always a cool spectacle. I've always enjoyed Battle Royal, Royal Rumble. That's all cool. We have a couple mixed tag matches that aren't very good on paper. To your point, Bobby Duncombe Jr. is on the card for the television title. Wrath and Glacier is the opening bout. It's not a strong card. And but this go home show I thought was a good strong card. We do find out pretty much what happened on Nitro. I think there was a little too many replays, but I do agree with you that a lot of them were needed. Though I feel like again the production and where they happened and how they happened on the replays would have been a little bit better. Could have been a little bit better. But we closed the show with a lead up for the United States title match, which is your main event. So kudos there. We had a lot of. I think you and I rated the majority of the matches, with the exception of the main event, which seems to be the case every week, 2+ stars, and a majority of them, I think if we had to go and rate, it took an average of everything, probably 2.5 stars was the average rating for all of these matches for the night. At least 2.25, 2.5, somewhere in that range. So that's pretty good for a Thunder. So I'll take it. I think this is one of the better Thunders we've had in a while.
And the other thing, I don't mean to cut you off here, but
no, you're fine.
You say that like how there's maybe a little bit too much recap for your liking. There were 9 matches on the show, so it wasn't like there was so much recap that we only had like because we've had a couple of shows where there was only 5-6 matches and they just had a lot of promos and interviews in the ring. Your Ric Flair interview of the night, your DDP Tony Schiavone in the ring interview of the night, that type of stuff, which we really didn't get much of. We only got the Jericho one. But we did get a lot of wrestling. It was very wrestling heavy, even with the recap. So that's why I was actually okay with. Fair. That's why I was okay with the setup of this. Is that we kind of got everything we really kind of wanted in a wrestling match. We had wrestling and we had the story being told.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. That said, that was their show. That is our show. If you haven't yet given us a follow, a subscribe, any of that, go do it. Leave us a review. Really appreciate it. Tell all of your friends, family, relatives, whatever. Let them know, hey, are you a fan of WCW Thunder? Were you a fan of those crazy hats in 1998? Then you should listen to these guys because it will help us out. Of course, you can always give us a follow on Twitter at Thundercraps. And, of course, thundercraps.com for all of our previous episodes if you still need to catch up from the previous 40 episodes before this one. That said, go check out World War III 1998. See who has the best oxygen, who is going to hold out when 60, who is going to be the lone survivor from the 60 men. Is it going to be somebody else, or is it going to be Kevin Nash in his hometown? And then check out Thunder 42. We're taking a break over Thanksgiving. Or at least they are. We're not. We'll be back next week with our review of Thunder 42 from December 3rd, 1998. For Kyle Hoagland, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are Art Floresingly out of time. See ya.